Yeah, we are. Good evening and welcome to another episode. Thank you very much for everybody who is kind of like following us and well, can't believe it, but we're up to around about 11,000 people now and we're doing well, so that's really good. Thank you very much. Tonight I've got back a good friend and I only just met him on here actually, but I tell you what, let's listen to something in the meantime before we have our guest on tonight, Alan Whitehead. This is him in the Marmalade Reflections of My Life.
The changing of sunlight to moonlight, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. The greetings of people in trouble, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my own home. All my crying, feel I'm dying, dying. Take me back to my own home. I'm changing, arranging, I'm changing, I'm changing everything. Oh, everything around me. The world is a bad place, a bad place, a terrible place to live. Oh, but I don't wanna die. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back
There you go. Alan, I want to ask you, um, it was in 1978 that you actually left Marmalade, didn't you?
Yeah, it's sadly when Junior left, the lead guitarist who wrote that, the band was never the same, and it drifted with different people, and Dean was at odds with himself, and he had a sadly he was an alcoholic eventually, and the whole thing disintegrated. And then me and Graham reformed Marmalade. We went back out on the road, but we had one more hit, Falling Apart of the Seams in 1976. But if I was honest, it was just never. Once we lost Junior, it was never the same. He was Junior runs the affairs of the surviving members. Obviously, Pat and Dean are now gone, and we just in a week's time we've just signed another massive record deal with a massive advance with BMG Records for our back catalogue. So it's quite humbling to think that that we're still selling records from, well, that was made in 1969, 1970, around about
Yeah,
that. So,
it was 1969. That was.
so
That is
it's
what.
amazing that people are still buying it. I don't know, but all over the world, our royalties are going up and up each year. It's very strange.
Yeah. So, cause you left, then things was happening. Then, um, it must have been kind of like because we talked quite a bit now, but I want to get into what to the point where when you left and because you had all that fame, you probably had all the women, you probably drunk a lot of champagne and everything.
Well,
Do you miss it?
we didn't do champagne. We Marmalade was Scottish, so they just drank whiskey.
Oh,
With
oh,
Jack Daniels occasionally, maybe tequila if they were. We used to go through phases where they would go for a month just drinking tequila, and then it might be. They always went back to whiskey though.
yeah. Do you miss it, Alan?
I miss the comradeship of the band and the traveling and the fun. Anyone who can maybe imagine what it was like, well, it was like that. It was like one stop, like a long Beano party, where the only thing you had to worry about, I guess, or worry, we didn't worry about it, but the only decision we had to make is what we were going to eat that evening, but everything else was done for you. It was a great way to see the world, and being with Glaswegians. If there's any people from Scotland out there, you don't need me to tell you how clanny the Scottish are, and nobody wants to mess with half a dozen Glaswegians, that is for sure. And our road crew were, for those that know Glasgow, our road crew were from Govan, and they were as hard as nails. Their idea of a good night was to take on 5, 10 guys, and they kicked the living daylights out of them. They were hard, tough boys. So there was many good memories, and it's tragic when I watch that to think that Dean and Pat died last year, and Dean died 2 years ago. And there's me, Graham, and Junior. We often talk amongst think who's going to be next to join the band in the sky. The way we're pegging, being leaving this world, we'll reform the band up in heaven or hell or wherever we go. Who knows?
You could go to heaven. Um, let, when you was in your when you were kind of like you playing and everything, you got like a spot, a regular spot then, didn't you, at the Marquee Club? What was that like?
Yeah. What happened was when I first joined the band, and We did. We supported an up and coming group called The Action. They never made it. I don't know why they didn't, but they were a good band, and we supported them in the last week in January. And then John G, the manager, liked us, and we went down better than The Action. And then about a month later, he booked us back to support Pink Floyd, who didn't. The people really weren't ready for Floyd. And funny enough, I was with Nick Mason a couple of years ago, and he remembered it. We were talking about it, and he said, "You really stormed it that night. We didn't go down well at all." But they were too ahead of their time then. So John G said, "Look, if you can go down better than two great bands like that, you deserve your own night." And we got our residency, and I remember on a Thursday night there was 1,000 people queuing to see us. And personally, I think the band were at their best when we were resident in the Marquee, because we hadn't had a hit. I mean, we used to get people like Hendrix was a big fan of the band, and he'd come and see us at the Marquee, and they'd all come backstage, and it was we were working 7 nights a week. I think at one point we were known as the highest paid non-hit group in the country. We were getting 200 quid a night, which was a fortune then in 1968, without having a hit record. But they had a big cult following, and the Marquee was a great venue. It was just a great, I'd say, yeah, having a hit is wonderful, but the profile of any group changes when you have a hit record. And because when you don't have a hit, you're reliant on how good your stage show is. And Marmalade were at their peak before it almost makes you lazy when you've had hits, because you just go on stage and everyone screams, and I think it takes the edge off your hunger. But that's just for me. I mean, other bands might see it differently. But I enjoyed that time when we were resident at the Marquee. I thought it was a great period for the band. We knew, not in an ego way, but we knew the band would break. I mean, CBS or Sony, they are called now, but they were behind us, and they wanted us to be a hit. And when they offered it, they originally came and offered us Everlasting Love, and we turned it down. We wanted to do our own stuff, and they gave it to Love Affair. And then they came back a few months later and said that you still want to do it your way, or we've got another record. We can give it to Love Affair, or we can give it to you. It's called Loving Things. So we decided to cash in, and it got in the top 10. It was the first hit. And then we had another one, Wake Me Mary, and then we had the big one, Obla-Dee, which in fairness was a hit for anyone. It wasn't because Marmalade were any. I mean, I think there was about 15 versions of that, but Obla-Dee was a hit record for anyone. It was just a great pop song.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was the best record we did. Of course, to me, Reflections is the best thing we ever did. You can't compare that to Obla-Dee.
Why switch then? Why switch a label from,
What happened was,
Decca?
Yeah, CBS, our contract expired, and they offered us 50 grand to renew, and Decca offered us 100 grand. So, and Decca gave us the opportunity to go back to writing and producing ourselves. And the first thing we did was Reflections at Decca Studio 2 in West Hampstead. It's a very famous studio. And so Decca gave us the freedom to go back to, in fairness, if we'd have recorded Reflections 2 years before, we probably wouldn't have had a hit with it, because it was a very melodic song. It was over 4 minutes long. But by that time, Marmalade had enough, if you like, following, and Decca, by plowing 100 grand into us, they had to get their money back. So they really went hell for leather. In America, we went under Warwick, and we had was number one in quite. I don't think it was number one all over, but it certainly did massive sales in America. And then it was number one in 18 countries.
Yeah,
so
you're doing my own work. You are.
Really?
I was just
Well, lucky enough, my memory's.
But yeah, it was. You had number one in 18 countries. What was that like? Because if I had number one in 18 countries and having all that, did fame? When when you were in your prime, did the fame get to you?
No, I can tell you honestly that when it's you, we're just flesh and blood. I mean, you wake up every day, you do all the things that everyone else does. You go to the loo, you look at your face and think, shit, that was a tough night last night. You never see yourself as famous. The only thing that changes, in my opinion, is that the people that have fame and change and their egos get involved. And we have met people like that. But honestly, I would say the only thing that changes is the way people react to you. That's their perception of you is different. But if you're grounded and I like to think the band they were very down to earth guys. We never saw ourselves as stars or anything like that. I mean, I'm still amazed now that people get all like, wet in the knickers. And for me, I really find it funny, especially in America. If I go there, the Americans are like beside themselves, and they can't believe that the people that I've met, and they're always want to hear all the stories. And but when it's you don't see yourself that way. You just look in the mirror and you're just you. Even now, I never cease to be amazed that people even recognize me now. But it's nice. Most people are very complimentary, and they want to talk about the old days when there was real music, when there were real musicians, and the standard and quality of the creative ability of the musicians then has never been surpassed nowadays. No disrespect to young musicians, but where's the Jimi Hendrix of today, or the Who, or the Beatles, or the Rolling Stones? You can go on and on. There's nothing like them anymore.
No.
And that's the tragedy. I don't know how we have managed to lose that, because at one time Great Britain conquered the world with its musical ability.
Yeah, probably too much greedy, probably.
I think the demise of the industry started probably with PWL, Stock Aitken and Waterman, that they did to music what MFI had done to furniture. They were just churning them out, and the groups weren't really important. And then the nail in the coffin was Simon Cowell. Whatever was left, he completely destroyed. The only way you could get a record deal through Psycho was if he stitched the books to make you win, but you only won if you were signed to him. I mean, it's a travesty of what damage that man alone has done to the music industry. But there you go.
I've spoken to several people that was under Simon Cowell, and they were saying that they were signed the next minute, around about 6 months down the line. They were kind of like kicked out.
Yeah, the contracts he was using, I can tell he was a manager, how he got away with it, they were totally illegal. Draconian contracts, the way he structured it, it was such a stitch up. I just don't know how the general public didn't realise all those fake competitions and all that. It was, you only won that if Simon Cowell, you had to be signed to him. That's why no groups could be managed outside of Simon Cowell's setup. It was all just a scam, really. But in the end of the day, I mean, I've met Simon, good luck to him, he's made a fortune. But the price has been, in my opinion, that he destroyed that um, um, almost organic way that music grew. And there came a point when the only way you could have a record deal was if you went on X Factor. It's disgraceful. It was misused, and yeah, Simon Cowell made a lot of money. And you're right, he spat the groups out at the end once he'd milked them dry. I think morally, the whole thing was wrong, and I couldn't even watch X Factor. I found it so so derogatory to the industry that I loved. But that's my personal opinion. Other people might have a different opinion about it.
But as a manager, would you ever take somebody from the X Factor?
Well, once Simon Cowell's wrung them dry, there's nothing to take. Yeah, I've been offered them all the time. In fact, now that whole X Factor's a stigma does you more harm than good.
Well, you've got to have an image behind you too, ain't you? If you're not like a pop star, you're in, ain't you?
Well, I wouldn't touch anything that done X Factor. To me, it's what they're trying to do is a shortcut. There is no shortcut. Marmalade didn't just happen. I mean, they were a working band for 3 years or 4 years before they had their first hit. But now everyone wants everything yesterday. They're not prepared to put in the hours and work. And that's probably why the standard in musicianship was so good in the 60s and 70s, and why we are still selling so many records, where we both know, Steve, that the stuff that's in, I didn't even know what's number one, and I really have no interest. But none of that stuff will be played in 6 months' time, never mind 50 years' time.
No. But your music still is, see? And that's
it's amazing.
It is amazing. And, you know, I was speaking to somebody the other day who was in, a rock and roll group. I can't remember what they're called now. And he was saying to me, a long time ago, Steve, it was really good. You know, the music was really good. And now, he said, this is what he actually said. He said, the music today is crap. He said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with him more. I can't even listen to Radio 1. It's mindless nonsense. And if you want somebody asked me maybe 10 years ago, what is different about music today and when I was playing, you could say, well, the Marmalade were different to the who were different to the Rolling Stones, who were different to the Beatles, who were different to Mamas and Papas, who were different to this. And now they all like jelly molded out the same. They all sound the same. They all look the same. They're all marketed the same. There's no individuality. But the groups that I grew up with all grew organically. They hadn't got social media. And if you weren't good, people threw bowls at you. It was a great learning experience. I mean, you couldn't go and do a gig, say somewhere like Chroma in Norfolk with all the rockers. If you weren't up to scratch, believe me, you would get pint mugs chucked at you. And not us, but I've seen groups, you know, the beer mugs just raining down on them.
Yeah.
You couldn't get away with being mediocre. If you went out and people have paid good money to see you, you better be good and perform, or that they will let you know. And I saw that with some. I felt quite sorry for them, but lucky enough, in fairness, Marmalade always did a great show. And during the time of the original members, for what they did as a working band, I was really proud to be involved. They were excellent players, and they always did a great show. And they were just a damn good band. There's the last TV show we did, I think it was might be called Colour Me Pop, but it's on YouTube, and it's the 30-minute, the last show with the original members, and it really shows what the band could do live. And there's loads of amazing comments when people dismissed us as a pub band or one-hit wonder because they only remembered Obla D, and then they saw what the band could really do, and live they were as good as I mean, for me, when I look back, even I think, Christ, we held our own with a lot of the big bands.
Yeah, yeah. You as a drummer, did you ever felt left out?
Um, well, drummers are always odd. They're always the odd man of any group. That's why all my friends, Nick Mason, Keith Moon, all the drummers hang out with drummers because they're not. They're definitely different. And it's true, drummers get all the girls. I think I had more women than the rest of the group put together, which really irritated them. I don't know why that is, but drummers are a different breed.
Any girls that we know?
Any what?
Any
Any
girls
girl?
that we know today?
Well, yeah. I mean, I dated Sheila White, who was in Oliver. She died 3 years ago. I was engaged to her. Married Lena Skog, a Swedish model. I dated Imogene Hasser, was a very famous actress. She committed suicide at 37. Nothing to do with me, but we'd. Even I look back and cannot believe, God knows how the girls I dated. But I think with women, this is just women are not so worried maybe about the way you look, so long as you look clean. But I have found that if you can crack jokes and make girls laugh and you've got a twinkle in your eye, then I mean, I dated all sorts of girls, famous girls, and it never crossed my mind that I thought, well, what's the worst they can say? You know, bugger off, you little bastard, or whatever. But they never did. So, I mean, I'm just about to get married again to a girl half my age who is strikingly beautiful. And people said, how the hell do you do it? I said, I have no idea. But whatever, why change it if it's working? I have no idea. She can't get over the fact she's marrying an ex-rock star. I mean, whatever turns her on, I don't care. But she is drop dead gorgeous.
She's doing my own work all the time. I have to mention that, and you just comes in. I'm sure you can read my mind. But so you're going to get married again, and
Fourth time lucky.
Fourth time lucky.
Fourth time lucky, yeah. My ex, one of my wives, the last one was 28. She just gave up with me. She said, I'm out of here. Just couldn't keep up with it all. The second wife, we used to speak now and again, and she once said to me, I don't regret being married to you for 17 years because I never stopped laughing, but I just couldn't be married to you a day longer. I think I drove her mad eventually, but it's just because she said it was like being married to a gypsy. The problem is when you're in a band, you are like a gypsy. You're traveling, and so I wouldn't say I was probably the best husband in the world. Both my two sons have had a word with me and said, when I told them I was getting married again, and they said, you can't be serious, Dad, because obviously your track record of success with marriage is not good.
Do you know what? I've got on a piece of paper here about that. I was just about to say, see, you're reading my mind. You don't, you're like me, you don't have any luck, do you?
Don't have what?
You don't have any luck, do you? 4 divorces.
It's the only wife I miss. In fact, I'll show you a picture. I keep a picture because this is the only one. This is the only one that I can't speak to because sadly she died of ovarian cancer when she was 46. I don't know whether you can see her picture.
Going up a bit. All right, yeah. Hello.
And that was Lena. And she was a Swedish model. And sadly, when she died, she didn't look like that. But I mean, obviously, ovarian cancer and lymph cancer, she looked like a little old lady. But I choose to remember her in her prime, and she was strikingly pretty. And we although we divorced, but became really good friends. And we'd meet up when she came over from Sweden, and it was like nothing had changed. We were just the same together. She was a very crazy girl, and I really miss her. I've never met anyone quite like her. She was so full of energy, and it's tragic to think that that she passed over so young. 46 is very young.
Do you still have like reunions where the band is left?
The last reunion I had with the band was 25 years ago. Graham, Pat Jr. and John Salter, our personal manager. Dean wasn't here, and I've still got a picture of that. Then we met up and we just got drunk like we normally did, and it was really good fun. I saw Dean the last time when I went to Los Angeles because he lived in LA. I saw him 2000 and might have been 2009, and he looked frail, fragile. It was an alcoholic for 15 years, and I got to tell people out there that drink will do just as much damage as drugs, and it had taken its toll. He was emotional, and he looked frail. So that was the last time I saw him. We were all really, really sad because we'd been that time together, and it's like losing not a family member, but it is like that. Anyone who's in a group will know what I'm talking about. You might have disagreements and arguments, but you're a family traveling and eating, and it's just sad. When we'd heard that they found him dead on his in fact, he'd been dead 24 hours before they found him. He'd got Parkinson's, so I don't know what the final cause of his death, but they found him on the floor dead. He'd been dead 24 hours, and I don't know whether alcohol was a contributing factor to Parkinson. I don't really know. Yeah, I wasn't really a heavy drinker, not compared to the other guys. So maybe I've aged. Maybe I've aged better than the rest of them, because they were. I mean, they were serious drinkers. They could do a bottle of whiskey every day, and I never saw them drunk. By the way, they just used to drink a lot. And we used to sometimes. In the old days, the nearest we came to doing drugs is sometimes we had a split. But the grass in those days, we used to smoke grass night, and it wasn't the skunk stuff they're smoking now. And all that happened is you got really giggly, and you got the munchies, and that was it. You could still function, but the stuff people are smoking today, I mean, that's psychotic. I would not be. I've never really been that into drugs anyway. But in the old days, sometimes a spliff was okay.
What was it like to be together all the time when you're traveling all the time? And did you ever get fed up with each other's company?
I never. No, I think the only observation I remember was after Obladine, we got to number one. Our agency, Starlight Artist and Peter Walsh, worked the living daylights out of us until after about 8 months, without a day or night break, and lack of sleep, and the group suddenly it's sort of the body can take so much, and then we started to dramatically lose weight. We looked haggard. And Pat, who was the spokesman of the group, went to see our manager and said, look, we've got to have some time off. And I gotta laugh. Our manager is a Yorkshireman, he's long gone now. And he said, what, time off? Shit, man, when you're not working, you're not making me money. Back out there. And Pat said, let me rephrase it. Either you give the group a break or there will be no group. And he realized Pat was serious, and he cancelled every gig for 2 weeks. And otherwise, I think the group would have just collapsed because of sheer exhaustion.
Yeah, yeah.
people forget. Yes, there is aspects of the industry that are glamorous. Of course there are, but you think you're up. You get home most nights 3 or 4 in the morning. You're up again at 8 in the morning. You're on the road. You're doing TVs, press calls, photo shoots. You're flying over to Holland or Germany, doing a TV, flying back, and then straight to a gig. We did that non-stop, day in, day out, for 8 months. And there's a limit to what physically, yes, we wanted it because that's what we'd worked for, but if we'd have carried on, the price would have been, I don't say we'd have had a nervous breakdown, but we'd have maybe physically collapsed, or you just putting a massive strain on your body. There's only so much the body can deal with without lack of sleep and no time to relax.
Let's play another song of yours. Is it going? Is it going? Here you go. There you go.
Rainbow, yeah.
What was that like? What was that like singing that song all the time? Did you ever get fed up with it?
No, I think the only song that probably grated on us a bit was Obla D, really. But obviously we couldn't do our set without doing Obla D. But Rainbow was a factor. I remember recording that because we were in Decca Studio 2, and I'd never used brushes before, and they wanted a softer feel. So I spoke to Mike Ross is our engineer, and he said, go and see the session drummer upstairs. So I took me brushes, and there was, I can't think who the player was. And I said, how do you use these things? And he showed me how to use brushes, and Rainbow has just got brushes on it. And so I went back and did what he showed me how to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Rainbow was a pretty song. I mean, I think of the stuff we did, I really still like I See the Rain, which wasn't a hit for us in England, was a hit abroad, and it was the one that Hendrix voted his favourite song of '68. He loved it, and if you hear I See the Rain, it's on YouTube, it does sound very Hendrixy, because I think I mentioned before, Steve, the Marmalade used two bass guitars on stage. To my knowledge, no one else has ever done that. For those that are technically minded, we used a 6-string Dan Electro tuned to open E, a Fender Precision bass, standard 4-string, and then, of course, Junior played a right-hand Fender, back to front and upside down, also tuned to open E, because he was left-handed, and you couldn't get left-handed guitars then. So we played exactly the same way that Hendrix did, which is maybe why Jimmy was so fond of the band, because they had a very, if you listen to I See the Rain, it's very Hendrixy. We weren't inspired by Hendrix, by the way, because we didn't know him that. We did it, and we got to know him because we did it at the Marquee when we were resident there, and he used to come and see us, and he said it was his favourite track, which was a great compliment, because in fairness, Jimi Hendrix is such an iconic guitarist, very unassuming, charming, laid back, probably because he was always stoned, but he was always had a joint in his hand. But we talked with him, and he was lovely to be around. And I know whether I mentioned 3 or 4 years ago, I managed his daughter, Teo Hendrix, and she only met him twice. She was 4 years old when he died. So I think she quite liked the fact that it's just, it's ironic, isn't it, that I knew her father better than she did.
Let's listen to I See the Rain.
Beautiful day in late July on the green lawn. The ducks are congregating round and round the lily pond, and the cows have all gone, running home to put their goats on. Stay indoors while it pours till tomorrow. I see the rain again. I must complain again. Why does the rain let me down? Will you try and make it sunny in the morning? 5 to 10, now it's time for the weather. The sun will shine, and then it's time to get better. But it won't last for long. Clouds are spreading over London town. Stay indoors while it pours till tomorrow. I see the rain again. I'll take the blame again. I see the rain let you down, but I'm gonna make it sunny in the morning. Stay indoors while it pours till tomorrow. I see the rain again. I'll take the blame again. I see the rain lets you down, but I'm gonna make it sunny in the morning.
There you go.
Now, that was filmed in Holland. I just saw a comment flash up by Gary, and what Gary said in message is 100% right. Bands are just manufactured now, and I couldn't agree with him more. The club circuit was a great apprenticeship for any up and coming band. You had to do that apprenticeship. So Gary, Gary, you're 100% right about that. All the bands I knew, they were working bands, and you really had to cut it. And most bands, if they had a good representation and they had the record companies behind them, not all the bands that should have made it did make it. We were lucky that we had CBS, probably one of the most powerful labels, behind us, and the band were very determined. I mean, you think that they gave up. They were number one group in Scotland before I joined them. They called Dean Ford and the Gaylords, and they gave everything up. They were number one group 2 years running, and they came back, came to London, unknown, and started again. Now that takes a lot of courage. They knew that they could never really break the UK from Glasgow, and that's why Ray Duffy, the original drummer, is a great drummer. That's why he left and I got the job, because they wanted another Scotsman, but they got me. But it probably good because I was the whipping boy for all their jokes. I got called just about anything and everything. In good, they could do it. They wouldn't allow anyone else to take the mick out of me. But I was fair game English, and I can't even begin to tell you the things they called me. But
No.
totally politically incorrect.
If the clock turned back today and you went back, would you ever go through all that again?
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat. It's just it's one of the most rewarding, enjoyable times of my life. Anyone out there that's, whether they're a musician or not, you think of the opportunities that were given to me as a council houseboy, made good. I got to travel the world, been around the world, I don't know, 30 times now. I got to be with a bunch of guys that were great fun to be with. You got to meet loads of lovely girls. I had an E-Type. Everyone had an E-Type anyway, but you could buy the cars you wanted, and what's not to like? Yeah, I mean, do I miss it? Well, you get older and you have different values, I think. If I was honest, irrespective of the enjoyment of having the success with the band, and when we had our first hit was wonderful. But I'd say the thing that, to me personally, the thing that I find the most rewarding and I'm most proud of is being a father and having two sons. And I ploughed I almost went bankrupt doing it, but I decided to put my kids through private school because I thought that you can leave them money and this and that, but they can squander money, but they can't squander education. And I've got two fabulous sons. One's 29, he's a doctor, GP now, lives in Somerset. And the oldest one is an entertainer, got his own business. It's without doubt, for me, the best thing I ever did, having kids. And for those that either haven't had children, don't miss it. I mean, I respect everyone's views. Some people just don't want children, but I'm really glad personally that I never missed out on that experience, because for the first time in your life, something becomes more important than you. And I think that is the great lesson of being a father. You'd like to, you know, you want to be the best you can be as a father. I've ended up, I think they went to, not that I'm a Catholic, not that it matters, but they went to a hard-edged missionary Catholic school. They didn't take any nonsense. And I'm proud of that. There was very strong discipline. And for me, I've ended up with two well-mannered, polite, well-educated, highly focused, wouldn't dream of doing drugs. And they're a credit to everyone that was involved with them, including my ex-wife. So for me, that's the thing that I'm so glad that I didn't screw that up. I might have screwed up a lot of other things, but I didn't want to fail as a father. That was just for me.
You've got some questions here before I go. Here we go. Martin wants to know, what's the most expensive thing that you ever bought?
Ooh, most expensive thing. Well, it's relative to, like, I suppose you could say, when I was with the band in 1968, I bought an E-Type. Now, I had a gold E-Type, and it was, I remember I paid about 1,850. Now, if I'd have still kept that car, they now sell it between 100 and 150,000. But then buying an E-Type, bearing in mind that the group were on a basic salary of £100 a week, so to spend £1,800 on a car was a lot of money, I suppose. But it's just, I've always been a car fanatic. So as life has gone, my accountant once rang me up and said, "Are you sure you're a manager and a music agent? You sure you're not a car dealer?" Because there were so many cars had gone through the books that I bought and sold and enjoyed. And at one time, I got completely carried away and had 6 cars. I had a Hummer, a Porsche, a Mercedes 55, a Range Rover. I mean, it was all getting silly. It's like, no disrespect to ladies, but you know, women might buy handbags. I was buying cars. I was running out of places to put them. I mean, the Hummer weighed 3.5 tons. It was a monster great thing, but I had to have it.
If you've got a spare sports car, pass it down my way.
I'm down to 1 car now. I feel a bit naked. Just 1 car to wash and clean. I've got a Volvo C70, the one with the roof that goes into the boot, and I love it. They're strong, and it's like soft top and a hard top. My speeding days, I now, with all the cameras, I sort of lost all these, the thing about going fast. I mean, I've had Lamborghinis, I've had every car, and driving fast with playing AC/DC full volume was my big turn on. But I think I'm driving a Volvo. Maybe I'm calming down a bit. My kids can only hope.
Yeah. Richard wants to know, there's always one in the group or a band. Can you tell me who was the most important one in the band? Who was the jokiest out of them all?
The jokiest?
Yeah, that must be you, isn't it?
No. The group joker was Pat Fairley. The things he would do, his patience knew no limit. He would hide in a cupboard for an hour, so when you came into your room, so he could jump out of the cupboard and scare. And the tricks that Pat got up to, He was the joker of the group. Actually, I would say, as the lone Englishman, I was the brunt of a lot of their jokes.
Mhm.
The things that, I mean, if I was with a girl, they would tell her everything. Then I've got incurable diseases and anything to try and stop me getting a girl. But it's just good fun. I mean, when I look back and think of the comradeship that we had together. Anyone who's in a group will know what I'm talking about. They become like your extended family because you're on the road with them, uh, and you do depend on them. I mean, certainly a few times when people wanted to have a go at me, but suddenly they'd find themselves surrounded by half a dozen Glaswegians, and they're not guys you want to mess with. They didn't take any prisoners. They were tough boys. So in many ways, although I was the lone Englishman, there's some great pictures on the internet when we got to number one, and they all wore kilts. I told you, the top of the pops. But I'm
Yeah,
dressed as a grenadier guard, and because I was English, I couldn't wear a kilt anyway. It'd be insulting. But I mean, that was there's some. We were with who was the fabulous Scottish DJ. He's dead now, Stuart. Um, can't think of his. He was just a fabulous guy, and he promoted the band. And the Marmalade were being Scottish. The Scottish are very popular worldwide. The English, not so much. I used to keep stum, but Scotsmen, because they've got this lovely reputation of a very down to earth, hard drinking, and certainly they were tough boys. So I had the time for 10 years of my life. I had a ball, and I do miss the fun. But everyone eventually you do have to try and act your age and grow up. I'm doing my best not to, but um, I think old age is slowly catching up with me.
yeah. Claire wants to know. Of course, men do have their women when you're in groups. But can you name one woman that really, really won your heart?
One woman,
Yeah,
what that won my heart romantically.
yeah.
Hmm. I suppose I'd have to say I think Lena, my first wife, was so exceptional in so many ways, and she was 5 years younger than me. I was 25 when I got married, and the there's I've never really known anyone like Lena, and maybe because she's passed over. But I've got such fabulous memories of my time with her. We had a house in the country, we had a white Rolls Royce, we had a swimming pool, we had all sorts of exotic pets from a lion. We had 3 dogs, a Great Dane, a boxer. We had an alligator. I mean, it was all ridiculous. It's just what. And we lived in a little village that was like Finchampstead. And we had all these wild parties. And we were always getting complaints about the noise. And, it was, Lena was the one that I have the fondest memories of, I think.
Mm.
And we did love each other. And that's why after 15 years, we got divorced and we became friends. And it was really wonderful to have her friendship. We could savor all the craziness had gone and we could just enjoy being with each other. If I was honest, how can I put this nicely? Lena was very physical. She was a 4 times a day girl. And we didn't get any time to talk. We just made love all the time, which is fine.
Mm.
But when I got to know her 15 years later, we actually got to know each other and talk. And I was so gutted when she left this world because she was a remarkable woman in so many ways.
Yeah. Bernadette wants to say hello. She said she was a very good fan of yours. She put all the records and everything. She bought records. She bought a scarf one day. and she's still got some of your music. Very big fan.
Oh,
Would it be possible we can say hello to Bernadette?
hello, Bernadette. Well, you must be the last of a dying breed if you're a fan. I think they're all dropping off the edge now, but it's always glad. I meet people now and again, and it's really, you never get tired of people telling you that they're fans of yours, or they bought this and bought that, or they've seen you here or seen you
Mm.
there. We always take it as a great compliment that there are still people out there that remember that whole golden era that Marmalade was part of, but
Mm.
there was many more people. I mean, most of the fans, if you like. When I had a birthday, I'd get like 1,000 birthday cards, and it was wonderful,
Um,
And people would send you presents, chewing gum. I don't know why, Wrigley's chewing gum, because I'd written somewhere that I like Wrigley's chewing gum, so people always sent me that, and
that comes
uh,
Wrigley chewing gum came from my part of the world,
yeah, it
Plymouth.
was a yellow. I remember it was yellow pack.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
But
Yeah.
Christmas and birthdays, and we used to get wonderful letters from people, and even now, if I look on YouTube, it's quite humbling to see some of the comments.
Mm.
Well, in particular with Fractions, but to think that something I was involved with musically had such a lasting impression on so many people, and I think that as a musician, that at least I would have left a very small mark um, for the people from. Oh yeah, there used to be a drummer in a band. What were they? I sometimes you were in the tremolos. I went no, Marmalade. Oh yeah, I'd say yeah. But
Okay.
the Trems and Marmalade were managed by our manager, so they were not like us, but we did travel a lot with them. So Dave Munden, the drummer of my mate, he died last year. Very sad.
Right, last two questions. All right, Steve, would it be possible we can get any other members of Marmalade onto your program? I will ask Alan, but I will see. I don't
Graham
know.
Graham doesn't speak to anyone. He lives in Spain, either Gran Canaria, and Junior. He doesn't do any social media at all. But if you think about Marmalade, none of the group were really interested in press. So it was always me because I was the only single one. I mean, they said that Alan would go to the opening of a toilet. He would just go. There's
Yeah,
free drink and women, and I go. So that's why when I got married, I got the front page of every newspaper because all the press knew me. But the group weren't really into it. Just they
yeah, yeah.
didn't care about that stuff. So in
Anyway,
answer to
yeah,
that question, the answer would be no. I could ask
yeah,
Graham
yeah,
and but they wouldn't
yeah,
be interested.
yeah. Yeah. We've got to kind of like go by the wishes, people. But we got the man himself. God, what who else you want? You know what I mean? And I really appreciate that Alan coming on. Um, the fashion dress. Oh, here we go. Um, what's your name? Oh, right. Okay, Wendy. Hi. I Alan. I'm a fan too. Really
I
big
went,
fan actually. Got posters on my wall and everything. But if the dress code changed since now and back then and now, I remember you in your all your trousers, flare top, and your flowery shirts, playing the drums away.
yeah.
What do you
I
think
don't
of
think
the
I don't
fashion
think I
dress
get
now?
into them anymore. No, we had platform shoes, bell bottoms. In fact, I remember I went down to see Sheila White when she was filming Oliver with Ron Moody and all the Corona kids who played all the urchins. And I remember I was chatting to because they're all from Sheila was from Corona, and they one of the little urchins, you wanted to give him a clip around the back of the head, but he said to me, "Were they bell bottoms?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "Why aren't they ringing?"
I bet that was good, wasn't it? We haven't because I do want to touch about Sheila and about Oliver and stuff like that, but I ain't got time now. But that must have been really interesting about you dating Sheila, who was in Oliver actually in the film. I thought that was
Yeah,
really
I
interesting.
used to go down. It was filmed at Shepperton, and I'd go down and have lunch with her, and got very friendly with Ron Moody, Harry Seacombe, Mark Lester. I was with Mark about 5 years ago, who played Oliver. He's an osteopath now, and he's grown up. He's a very good-looking man. He's tall, and I still think that film, Shaney Wallace, it's a brilliant film. I mean, Sheila was on that 9 months filming, so I used to, when I wasn't working.
Who did she play again? Was it the main role?
Sheila played. There was Shaney Wallace played Oliver Reed's girlfriend, and Sheila played Shaney Wallace's sister, Bet.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And she had her hair. She wasn't allowed to do anything with her hair or go in the sun. She had to look scruffy. In fact, I remember we went to the premiere, and Marmalade were then big, and I hired a Rolls Royce, and it was a great. We were sort of because me and Sheila we used to go all the clubs, and so we were a bit like a mini Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Clubs, and we were well known, and it was fun. The whole thing was fun. It's lovely that everywhere you went, you didn't have to pay, and everyone wanted to meet you, and nobody would say they didn't enjoy that. It was great.
Yeah. Alan, thanks very much once again. You're a lovely bloke, and thank you for all the times that you come on. And
That's right, Steve. But let me say a big thank you to anyone who is still a fan of Marmalade. Well, we really appreciate it, really do, friends. And we've got there is a new album. Well, it's 54 recorded titles, everything we ever recorded, which Junior remastered, so it's digitally perfect, and it's called Fine Cuts of Marmalade. Still available, and we've re-signed again to BMG. And one day down the line, a film, we keep getting very close to it, but one day Reflection will be used. The last time was Johnny Depp, believe it or not, loves Reflections, and he'd earmarked it for one of his films. It fell through at the end, but I know one day you'll hear it, you'll watch a film, and then the credits are going and Reflections will play. One day it will happen.
yeah.
But thank you to anyone who still loves the band. Keep on loving us, because the royalties are still coming in. Love it. I'll find ways to spend it, either on a new car or a new wife, or a divorce.
Alan, thanks very much for coming on, and we're going to catch up again very soon, because I love hearing your stories, and I hope you don't mind.
Not at all, Steve. I'm always amazed that people are still interested, to be honest. My kids have heard all the stories. They're bored to tears of it.
No, I think it's brilliant. I think everybody enjoyed it, and I've had quite a few people on the radio. I've got people here at the moment, and
it's lucky my memory is still good, isn't it?
Yeah, keep your memory. You're a nice, really good bloke, and thank you. I'm just in awe to see you. I think you're really what you've done, and you are a really top bloke. And
well, I tell you now, Steve, I've no intention of changing the habits of a lifetime.
Never change, mate. Never change, because at the end of the day,
because I've been able to cut my hair. It's the longest it's been since I think I quit the band.
Well, my hair, I feel like a right scruff every time I do.
Have you noticed I've shaved my beard off?
Oh yeah, you have. You reminded me of.
Yeah, I did that because my new fiance, she wanted me to look like I did 50 years ago. I said, but I don't think I can really look that. I don't think I can, but I'll save my beard off for you. And she's made me promise not to cut my hair. Well, it's getting, it look like bloody steptoe or something. Like, no, it's through the other ones it's anyway, it's a bit out of control. But listen, if she wants me to have long hair, whatever.
My hairdress is coming. I've got 2 weeks yet for my hairdresser to come. So
I think I'm looking like Wurzel Gummidge, actually, but whatever.
No, you don't look like you keep on pulling the women in. You're lucky.
It's just a twinkle in my eye that does it, nothing else.
Yeah. See, the trouble is, so you're a nice bloke, and never change for anybody. Be yourself. That's all you got to be in it.
It's all you can do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm too old to change now. That's why my kids don't give my new wife much of a chance. They reckon she'll cop out after a few years. They go, screw this. He's a nutcase. We'll
Okay.
see.
She,
Well,
she was,
that might be. It might be perfect. She doesn't want to have any more kids, so that's a relief. But
I might as well go to the betting office and put a bet on, shall I?
mind you, saying about kids, I often wonder. My kids often ask me, "How many more of you are there out there?" I went, "Oh, bloody, I've no idea." My ex-wife was always convinced somebody would come knocking on the door. "Hello, Dad."
I want some maintenance.
Who knows? There could be a couple. There could be hundreds. Who knows? I didn't keep a logbook. Who knows? If there's anyone out there who thinks I might be their dad, will get in touch.
By the way, you've got 50 people saying now that you're the dad. They want to know where you live.
No, no, nothing would surprise me. Believe me.
Yeah. Alan, thanks very much for joining me. Thank you.
All right, let me say goodbye to everyone. Thanks for watching. Steve, I'll speak to you again.
Yeah, will do. Thank you. That was Alan Whitehead. Brilliant, really nice bloke. Love him to bits. Really good. Been on a few times, and we hopefully have him back very soon. Thank you, guys. I'm off now. To have a well-earned rest. Be back tomorrow with more people. In the meantime, God bless and take care. Good night.